The brain does not. If you look at brain research, we can only focus on one thing at a time. It doesn't mean that you're not half paying attention, but it's like as soon as I look at my phone and do this, I'm not paying attention to you guys, right? I might be talking or whatever, but my attention is driven somewhere else. And especially kind of going back to some of the things, you're getting like a 15-second video about a nasty turkey or whatever it is. It's going to take you away from what's going on. At least that's what kind of brain research says, right? It's the kind of like that drip, drip, drip that we don't need. So it should be a tool to be used, but I think I want to make sure that you guys help us come up with what's the best system in a classroom to utilize it. So, because us grown people will make it like archaic, like shouldn't be archaic. It should be some kind of modernized common sense policy that we can maybe help build together, so that we can kind of be the pilot to implement it the right way as a system, so.
Well, my opinion on that would be it's definitely a good idea to get the pouches.
Ooh, you heard it here. Timestamp it, Dr. Rico. What time on this?
I'm sorry.
We're going to spread it all over the...
45.
There you go. Eason's great idea.
I've gone against my people.
Don't be saying that. 2,800 students, Eason. I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Yeah.
In my opinion, it's one of those things where it's about seriousness, how serious you take school. If you do the yonder pouches, it won't stop people from not listening to the lesson, if that makes sense. But it comes down to, like, if you want something to achieve, like if you want to go to school and you want to learn, you're going to learn. Yeah. If you don't want to, you're not going to.
That's a great point.
Taking away the phones, you'll get complaints, but you can brush those off, to be honest. When it comes to taking away the phone, it should be okay. I mean, the only worry I'm worried about is family emergency.
Sure, you can get in it. That's the reason why it's in front of you. It's a Velcro, not a locky. If there's like, oh my God, there it is, right? It can be done for emergency. Because we thought about that. We're like, emergencies. Back in our day when there was an emergency, like they called the school.
They called the school.
And then mama comes up and checks you out, right? Because I still think emergencies are different for young people versus grown people, right? Like, doesn't make the matters not serious. Of course it is. Something happens in the family. Oh my goodness. You want to know, but a lot of times it's like call the school secretary, got an army of secretaries, and or your, someone in your family is going to come say, oh my God, we got to check you out of school. We got to go type thing, right? So there's that element that's underused now because of phones. And, but at the same time, I love your vantage point. I think there's a way we can try to maybe make a balance of this.
I think the reason we're kind of struggling with his answer is because we've known people that we've never seen without their phones.
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of concerning to imagine them without one.
Oh, yeah. Like AirPods glued in all day, and I'm like, how are you surviving?
Now that's
right
something
now?
you probably want to take away.
Well, yeah, it would. That's actually
Okay.
that's got to be part of it.
Now
too.
let's get busy. I think you should take away. I think we should have school uniforms, $15.
Eason, I'm telling you right now, we're gonna cut this segment. We're gonna edit this segment out there. So
I need to get into witness protection
that's
after
right.
this one.
Don't worry, you got personal security. I'll have a campus monitor follow you all day.
But no, if we're serious here, I think the Yowie
it's okay. We know you're talking about cell
pouches.
phone patch. Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
I think there will be an improvement over time.
I think consistency by the teachers as well, and everybody has to be
It
consistent.
depends on the teacher, because I have a math teacher, and he's more like a college teacher. So it's more like, I'll give you the work, you do it, and whatever you do.
I'll tell you what, I've seen some teachers, and it's rare, it's not impossible, do a phenomenal job of integrating the technology throughout their lesson.
Absolutely.
Scanning QR codes, referencing things, polling, using the cell phones as polls, interactive polls. It's incredible. So we don't want to take that away. We want the access point. But we already know, like, it's not that we're trying to limit. It's I'm in class, I'm doing like what, Jerry, free time class like she has. She clearly has free time all the time. And she's sitting there and then she's making a video on herself or be like, what up, on a filter, send it to her friends, that kind of stuff, right? Like that's the part that distracts you from learning. Because there really shouldn't be any kind of quote unquote free time. There should be independent work time to do the work. Some people get it done sooner, some will later, but during those independent times is where we want to limit those distractions. Or, the thing that we think about from our end, which you guys may or may not be able to, the phones a lot of times is where we can coordinate trouble,
Yes.
coordinate activities that are not school sponsored.
Meet me in the bathroom.
Another segment
30
for another
minutes.
time, guys, right? Another segment for another time. But those coordinated activities that cause disturbances, that cause some of the work on our campus. So just keep that in mind as well.
I mean, it should work. Well, how fast would they be able to unlock? Because
Like in seconds? It's like a Velcro whip.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
Because like I know I'm like a couple of my classes we have like a no phone policy, and I can admit that I like be more attentive to the lesson without my cell phone next to me, but like it's just also my peers, we have to talk more about what's going on, or just
Yeah.
like it's more of a interaction with one another instead of us just being on our cell phones.
Because you were
looking at
saying,
a
Jerry,
video.
like the pandemic, 2 years, social media, you're just talky like this. Now
Yeah.
you're forced to talk like this.
Yeah.
This skill should never die. This ability to have a conversation like this. This is what's going to get, I'm telling you right now, young people listening, if you are, I know the older veterans do, but the way you get your jobs and career advancements is having the ability to communicate.
Networking.
100%.
Networking, communication, right? Because
Articulate your
correct.
points. Yeah.
Because even like Eason even said it himself, you can look up facts. I can look up on a crappy frozen turkey in 2 seconds. We're not paying people to look up stuff a phone can do. We're paying people to be able to communicate, critically think, make decisions, have structure. We call it structured discourse. Being able to agree to disagree in an appropriate fashion with a level of decorum, right? Like Mr. Canfield talks about, he's a news guy, but we've got to be. We see examples in the news of how we're not really doing a good job of being an example of how we talk to each other. We can disagree. Let's be respectful. May not like it, but these are the skill sets that your generation. I think it's less of your generation it's involved because I think of the distractions, phones being somewhat part of it. But you have advantages in other worlds where you're thinking differently, but never lose sight of the ability to communicate in these kind of formats and with your peers, That's a skill set that's going to take you for the rest of your life, for sure. So I love it. I love you guys' input. That's awesome. Is this still your segment, Mr. Canfield?
We're good. We're good.
We Dr. Rico, I'm sorry. Every time you invite somebody as a guest, don't invite me because I'll just eat up their time, I guess.
Well, you're one of the co-hosts.
No, I know. Principal corner, 1 minute corner. Next thing you know, it's a whole podcast again.
1 hour corner.
1 hour corner. So, yeah.
I mean, you bring up good topics.
Yeah. Thanks, Easton. You're good. You're paid, sir. We're going to put him on the payroll. All right. You can pay Jerry a little bit on the side, too. So yeah.
I think it's a good addition.
Yeah.
It'll come
thank
with backlash, but at the end of the day, it's about education. It's just how serious people take. I feel like nowadays school isn't really taken seriously anymore.
Yeah.
Like the main complaint I see and I kind of have
Yeah.
is some of the math is something that we don't see ourselves using, if that makes sense.
I agree slightly, but I also think that this is our fault, not your fault, us as adults need to do a better job of connecting like math, right, to you young people. I'll take a perfect example. Started my morning this morning observing a math lesson. I'm in geometry. Mr. Myers. They are going over angles of triangles. They're going over hypotenuse. They're talking about degree angles and measurements, and they're using a climometer. So to be able to measure distances with accuracy, to be able to pinpoint. And I was blown away because the entire lesson, you're talking about cotangent, right? You're talking about sin, cos, tan. He had a little video. Again, this is stuff and he's making connections with the young people on how you use these tools in the real world to measure. So then the second part of his lesson, he took him outside in the quad, made it stand at various distances, created out of a straw with a rope and a little like metal washer with kind of like a protractor type device, just looking through and measuring the angles based off distances. And he was making connections like light poles. You got it. If you're going to change, you need to know angle trajectories of like certain planes or whatever. These are certain things. He was making connections to real world. And so as I was walking out with students, I'm like, can you see how this connects to this stuff? He's like, yeah. I'm like, So I say that because we need to continue, especially math. Because math is one of those ones where you're like, what do I need this for when I grow up? Because the whole thing we keep thinking about is money and checkbooks and taxes and that stuff. And you hear the public say, we don't teach kids how to do that stuff. But the reality is the jobs, the future, especially your jobs of the future, is all math-based. Think of everything AI that's moving forward. Everything in the world and society has a math element, from building this building to programming to constructing the next generation of code, whether it be code through social media, through robotics, through engineering. No matter what field you're in, even if you're in the trades, you're going to be a welder, an electrician, a carpenter, construction, math, all math, geometry, algebra, solving problems, equations. But we have to do a better job of connecting that to you guys. Because if we don't, then you're going to be like, well, I don't even know this. I just tell my phone, boom, bip, bip, and scan this thing and answer the problem. It's not about answering the problem. It's about taking the series of steps in your brain to critically think to solve a problem. Even if it's wrong, the steps you take to try to attempt to solve it, you might get it wrong 9 times, but on the 10th time you get it right, you're like, aha, this is where inventions, patents come in. It's all math-based. It's the universal language is math. And so, and I say that because I wanted to be a math teacher, but I didn't become a math teacher. Someone convinced me to do something else, but in the teaching area. But I love math for that very reason, because, and I think one of the reasons why, like, this country is the greatest country in the world with all of our faults. We have more patents, more inventions, more entrepreneurial thinking in this country. Part of it is because of our freedom, but another big part of it is because of how we integrate mathematics in what we do. So I say that, but we got to do a better job to convince you guys of that, right? So something for you to ponder. So Eason, so hopefully I didn't get too deep on you on that.
No, I don't think it's
yeah.
all of your fault.
Yeah.
I think it might be.
That's okay. I won't take all the blame. Thank
not
you.
all
Eason.
your
I appreciate it. I was going to say, woof. I'm good.
I'm gonna say, I think it's part of the parents' fault as well, because I don't know how you were raised, but how I
man.
was raised was, if I have a D or F or sometimes a C, I get punished for it.
Yeah.
So school has become this thing for me, where to
Sure,
be honest,
sure, yeah.
it's more about what grade I have than what I learn.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
Sure.
my mom just said to graduate, not to
Of course.
learn.
Yeah.
So I'm.
But
learning-
hopefully you learn when you graduate, or when you get A's and B's, or F. I mean, it's supposed to be all correlated, right? And everything, like, if you get good grades, hopefully you're learning. You're not just like, smiling your way through A's, right? It's not. So there is some level of that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, parents have to be a big part of student learning. But there's challenges with that as well. So. The key to this is math is important, guys. Make the connections to the real world beyond your what money you make. Math is all around us.